On this vote, the yeas are 51 and the nays are 49. The Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, as amended, is passed.
Tax reform is well underway here in the United States. What does that mean for this country and beyond? Hello, I'm Nathan King, sitting in for Anna Naidu, and this is The Heat. It's happening here in Washington, but the battle for U.S. tax reform is being watched all over the world. A reduction in income taxes would likely increase consumer spending, creating more demand for imports, while a cut in corporate taxes could prompt American companies to move manufacturing and cash back to the United States. About the only thing we know for sure is that tax reform continues to work its way through the U.S. Congress and that the status quo is likely going to change. For more on that, we can expect. Let's turn to CGTN's Jim Spellman. He's in our newsroom. Jim, lay it out for us. There are two pieces of legislation right now, right? And what's the process and how do they differ and what we like to see at the end?
So last month, the House of Representatives passed its tax bill. Then late last week, the Senate passed its version. Now the bills go to what's known as a conference committee to iron out the differences. Both chambers then will vote again. The president wants a bill on his desk ready to sign into law by Christmas. So Congress has about 2.5 weeks to get this done. Let's look at the broad strokes in these plans. For individuals, many, but certainly not all, people will get a tax cut. Some deductions would be modified or eliminated, but the standard deduction that all Americans can take will be raised. By most estimations, this will largely benefit the wealthy. Some middle-class Americans will even see their taxes go up. The two versions differ in some key ways. The Senate version calls for a repeal of the Obamacare mandate that penalizes taxpayers who don't buy health care. The House version doesn't address this. The Senate version keeps a deduction for mortgage interest paid on loans up to $1 million. The House limits that to mortgages up to $500,000 and adds a few other restrictions. That's a popular deduction with homeowners. The House version repeals a deduction for large medical expenses. The Senate version keeps the deductions with some minor tweaks. Both plans slash corporate tax rates from 35% down to 20%, but there's talk that that rate could go up slightly in conference. The plans also allow for a one-time reduced tax rate for companies bringing profits that are earned overseas back into the U.S. This is known as repatriation. This could lead to trillions of dollars coming back into the U.S. Now, analysis from the nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office shows that these tax plans will likely raise the deficit by nearly $1.5 trillion. Republicans argue the cuts will boost the economy and offset many of the deficits. Economists doubt that largely. It's not a given that the House and Senate will come up with a plan that satisfies everyone, especially in the Senate where the Republicans can only lose 2 votes. But most political observers think it's likely something will pass. Polling, however, suggests a majority of Americans disapprove of the plan. Nathan?
Thanks, Tim. Well, obviously in this globalized world and the biggest economy, of course, US tax reform could actually impact other countries. How?
Yeah, so there are concerns in the EU that the lower U.S. corporate tax rate could make European economies less competitive. Germany and France have even initiated an investigation into whether the tax plan may violate international trade laws. The impact on China could be mixed. Lower income taxes could mean U.S. consumers have more money to spend on goods made in China. But there are concerns that the low corporate tax rate might mean capital outflows from China if more companies are investing in the U.S. And in Mexico, a presidential candidate is saying he would lower corporate taxes to become more competitive with the U.S., and it's possible we could see other countries move to modify their tax codes in response to the U.S. tax plan. Nathan?
Thanks, Jim. Taxes and death, the only inevitable things in life. Thank you.